and they've got this other spouse who is saying, what in the world?
Not other spouse, just they've got a spouse, right?
Okay. A spouse, sorry. Not the other. No, do you want to talk about Jeff's here? All right. Yeah, I don't have several of them. So the spouse, we'll call it my wife. We use my example, right? Well, I'll put my guts on the table. I make Garrett do that enough in our show.
Oh, yeah.
So there's my wife who is in her situation, her realm, and then there is me. Now, I am running in some ways a lot faster in this and at full speed, full throttle, and my wife at times I wish would be able to run with me. So I am fascinated of coming back to Shea because you're a woman, right? Now this would be relevant whether it was the opposite, and because there's some women I know in the producer revolution who are moving way faster than
they're
their
the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
They're the market makers.
How did things begin to? I want to kind of dive in this a little bit. How did things begin to shift for you? And this is total self-interest on my part. You got to know this, right?
Of course.
How has that affected now your relationship with your husband now moving forward, both kind of in an internal perspective and also the here and now happiness?
When Woody came up with everything, and I was there, but I remember trying to prove it wrong myself. I said, you're not as smart as you think you are. And this is not, no. There are other aspects. I was fighting it. I was very angry. Well, I was external too. So who do you think you are? And I don't know if you remember, I was furious.
Oh, I remember that day.
And he didn't even talk. Yeah.
All of my eyes were offended that day. I remember that day. I went for a long drive.
Yeah. So he tried this theory out with the law with this psychologist. So I went and decided I needed to have a talk with the psychologist because, what was going on here. He's crazy. So I went and talked to the psychologist, and he said, if Woody needs any help with anything, you tell him. I'm there. I said, oh, well, you're a big help.
Did that offend your eye?
It offended my eye. And I said, oh, thank you. So I came home and I said, oh, he sure is singing your tunes. And so I started actually taking it and making it. I thought, if this is true, I'm going to do it. So I started doing it, and I started applying it, and I talking about it daily. That was the biggest thing. Daily, going through it. Okay, where was my eye offended on every situation? Being external.
It was your checks and balances, basically.
Yes. Being external, you constantly are looking for outside sources. So I had to keep seeing, and I was in your depressed one moment, on a high as kite the next.
The roller coaster.
Roller coaster.
That comes from attachment, by the way. When we attach to external outcomes,
yes.
It's expectations, it's wishful
and those
thinking.
Aren't happening. But no, so I think that was the biggest thing, was getting to actually take a conscious effort of every time I got angry, frustrated, any negative feeling, and saying what is having an effect here.
Right.
And then saying, okay, now I've got it, and I didn't even change it. I just recognized it, and I was happier.
One thing I want to come back to on Shea that you said too, there was kind of a process here that we can identify, right? So there was the frustration and the anger outside externally, and I'm sure that if I make the assumption correctly, a lot of it was you're spending time on the road at events, you're putting all this time into it. Why are you not with me 24/7?
Yep.
And when you are with me,
you're not
and you're
with
reading
me.
some books and you're writing in your journal, why are you not with me, right?
Yes.
And I hear this from people who are attending the forums on Thursday night. So I'm going to hand it over to kind of Woody. I would like you to take Shea through this, and I want you to share that moment. Take us through that, Shea, and continue backing up to the conversation. You were trying to prove him wrong at the psychologist.
No, so the psychologist basically did not help me prove him wrong. So I went back home, and I thought, fine. If he says this is how it is, I'm going to list my 5 eyes. So I listed my 5 eyes.
Was that the first time?
First time.
So you say, okay, I'm going to try it then.
Yeah. Well, I was very external too. So I didn't know how to consolidate them. So I listed my 5 eyes. I went through those 5 eyes. And I said, okay, my family is very, very important to me and makes me feel important to be around them. So, and Woody is part of that family. He hated, where we were living and what was going on and the situations we were in.